Our people always call themselves black. Next is you like to call yourself Africans, right? There's no country on the face of the earth that a man can point on a map and show that this is the land I'm black, right? Also, we cannot say we African people knowing that the Mosai make a difference between us and the Africans, right?
Excuse
Because
mom. Excuse mom, sorry. Chance you have a minute for the a quick minute for the word?
2 minutes, mommy. I would.
right, because we also know that the Mosai make a difference between the Africans and the Israelite people, right? Most of us grew up hearing that we is Africans, not knowing that we are not Africans, but the chosen people of the Mosai, right? So this is the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary explaining the difference between Ham and the children of Israel.
Right, so he's Ham. It says the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes,
Not the what?
not the Negroes,
You sure it's not New Jersey?
not the Negroes,
Can't go ahead.
but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites.
Right, so when you look at the Africans and then there are 4 different tribes amongst themselves, right? All them out again, Canaanites,
It says the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites.
but not the Negroes. You'll never see Negroes mentioned amongst African people, right? So this is something that we have to get out of our head, because if we as Africans, there's no purpose in serving the Mosai, right? Because the Africans can't even serve the Mosai. Them as a cursed nation of people, right? And what we see happening is that a lot of our people like to claim to be an African and then saying that our God is with them, right? So this is the book of Exodus. Exodus 11 and verse 7. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move its tongue against man or beast, that ye may know that the Lord do put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Right? So there is a difference between Egyptians, which is African people, and the Israelites, which is the chosen of the Mosai. They call them Negroes. Right? Again, as we always say, most people would call themselves an African, not knowing that we are the chosen of the Mosai, right? As you say in Deuteronomy 7 and verse 6, right? For thou art a chosen people. You can't be chosen and be a cursed nation of people forever at the same time, right? We know that the curses on Israel is only for a period of time. But the curses on the other nations is something that the Mosai will never remove, right? So here, Zechariah 14 and 21. Start off with 6.
So this is Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 6. Right? So it says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord.
Zechariah
14 and verse 16, still active. Zechariah 14 and verse 16. And it says, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King and the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Verse 17, and it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles.
Right, so we see that these African people, right, they're considered as heathens in the Bible, right? They cannot serve the Most High. Right? Can you continue reading?
Verse 17. Excuse, by chance I'll have a minute, quick minute for the word. Right. Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 17, and it says, and it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles.
Remember, at this time, Israel will be living.
Yeah, man. Quick word.
Right? At this time, Israel will be amongst these other nations, right? Going to be set apart. Right? So these nations, and I'm going to read back your last.
Verse 19. It says, this shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles.
Right? So this not
You says, yeah, 1 minute for the word.
when they're talking about all nations, this will involve Israel. Right? All the other nations would not be a part of the kingdom to come. They will be under Israel. Right? Most of them will be rebelling in the kingdom. There is where we going and dish out harsh punishment on these nations and them, right? Go to verse 21.
So these verse 21, Zechariah 14 and 21. And it says, yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts.
Every pot in where?
Every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts.
Right, so in Jerusalem and where?
And in Judah.
Right, so Israel will be holy once again. But the other nations will still be in the wickedness. They was not created to be holy. Right, they will be going off even in the kingdom to come. Right? So there is where judgment will not be dished out on these other nations. Right? And if you look at what most of our people have been saying, that we and them is the same. How could Jerusalem and the Jews, right, be living good in the kingdom, but there is the same amongst the other nations of people? It make absolute no sense. Right? So this is the book of Isaiah 45 and verse 40. Thus say the Lord, the labor of Egypt, the man and the man just of Ethiopia, and of the seed men of stature shall come over unto thee, and they shall be thine. They shall come after thee in chains. Right? So the Africans will not come after we in chains. They shall come over, and they shall fall down unto thee. They shall make supplication unto thee, saying, surely God is in thee. Right? So even these Africans know that there's a difference between us and them. Right? But they will be in chains under us. Right? Making supplications. Right? Meaning they'll be farming the land, seeing about the household, doing all the chores, all the work, everything, right? Saying, surely God is in thee, and there is none else. There is no God, right? So they will know that one and true living God is only dealing with the nation of Israel and not everybody else, right? So continue.
Right, so this is the book of Psalms 53 and verse 2. Right, going back to what the brother was trying to prove, that we is not the Africans, right? See, everybody would say, why we fighting to show that, you know, you have a difference between the blacks and the other races, or so-called black people and the Africans, right? So here's why, right? Because we separated and we are a holy nation, right? These Psalms 53 and 2. So it says, God looked down from heaven upon the children of men, to see if they will at any did understand, that did seek God. Right? So remember the scripture said the eyes of the Lord, right, is 10,000 times brighter than the sun. So he all over, right? Not just among the Israelites, right? All over, right? And it says, every one of them is gone back. They are all together become filthy. There is none that doeth good. No, no, not one. Right? So every last one of these nations filthy. Even the so-called Africans that may look like us, it's our distinction. A distinction between the both of us, right? Because when you really look at it, right, and when you really check it out, right, these nations, they only doing a set of nonsense with we just always prove it. They're putting a set of disc in the lip, right, a set of mud in the hair and all of these things. They're literally filthy, and they're spiritually filthy too, because they're serving all set of gods, right? A finger is a god, right? They have enough gods that they could name, you know, the 10 fingers, right, and the 10 toes, right? So the Most High say that all of these heathens is filthy, and He set apart us because we are the only nation that's different from all of these nations, right?
So this is the book of Genesis 49 and verse 23. Right over there. Genesis 10 and verse 6. This is the book of Isaiah 49 and verse 23. And kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face towards the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet. Right? So this is what the Africans going to be doing in kingdom to come, right? Serving the nation of Israel, bowing down to Israel. You can't bow down to somebody and put them on a high pedestal and you and them equal. There is no equality in a king and servants. Right? So this is something that we need to understand as a nation of people. All nations will be serving the nation of Israel. Right? Thou shalt know that I am the Lord thy God. I am the Lord, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. Right? So this is what Israel doing right now. Waiting on the Most High. On his timing, the Most High will restore Israel back to the normal glory, normal state that we was in before we started breaking the laws, statutes, and commandments that the Most High gave unto us, right? About?
Genesis 10 and 6.
Yeah.
So read Genesis 10 and verse 6. So it says, and the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizran, and Phut, and Canaan.
Right.
Right? Right, Genesis 10 and 7, right? So it says, and the sons of Cush, Seba, and Haviel, and Sabta, and Rama, and Sabtecha, and the sons of Rama, Sheba, and Dedan.
Right? Right.
It says, and Cush begot Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, wherefore it is said, even Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Verse 20. So it says, these are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations.
Hey, what's that for? Already nice. Right, so read it over again, verse 20.
So it says verse 20, right? So it says, these are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations.
Right, so when I read from verse 6 come up, it lists all who is the children of Ham. Right? And it's showing you that these people come out from Nimrod. Right? A different nation from the Israelites. Right? So we ought to be aware of what we call ourselves. We can't call ourselves Africans. When I look at the family tree of the Africans, we know where fitting inside that these nations and them, right? So you have to be aware of the things that you call yourself. What's the name? Isaiah 20 and verse.
So this is the book of Isaiah, the 20th chapter and verse 4. So it says, so shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians prisoner and the Ethiopians captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their buttocks uncovered, right? To the shame of Egypt, right? Right? So as the brother was going through, right? So a quick point I also wanted to make out also too, you know, a lot of discrimination that we have, you know, when we come up here and, you know, we talk to people and, you know, we show people, you know, is that, you know, we and the Africans is one, is that, you see, we people don't even look into the genealogy, right? So we people don't even look into the genealogy to see that, you know, this is what going on, or to say, you know, we are the Africans. So you have a lot of, you know, complexity going on here, right? I want to do this.
This is the book of So this is the book of Zephaniah 2 and verse 12. Right? So a lot of people saying that we as Africans, but they're thinking that all of us going and get saved together, right? They say in Zephaniah 2 and verse 12, ye Ethiopians also ye shall be slain by my sword. Right? So the Most High not going to have mercy on the Africans and them. Right? They have to pay for what they have done. Yes, we know Israel, two-thirds of Israel will not make it. Right? But when they're talking about Africans, they have to pay for the wickedness they have done. Sell us to the white man. Right? Throughout the years, killing out these so-called black man, which is known as the Israelite in the Bible. Right? These people are not the same as us. And we have to make a clear distinction between what is an Israelite and what is an African. Right? Because you can't call yourself an Israelite and then saying tomorrow we come from the land of Africa. It makes no sense. Africa has 54 countries. Right? Not even the Africans just call themselves African across the. So why would we be doing that? Knowing that there's a difference between the Egyptians and Israel, right? So if you get Exodus 3, verse 9.
Right, so this is the book, Exodus 3 and verse 9. So it says, now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppress them. Right, so in Exodus 3 and verse 9, right, we see here that, you know, the children of Israel was going through a lot of oppression by the Egyptians, right? But you see, what we have to also understand is that just like how back then, the same thing here, right? You see, these Africans, you know, they know that at the end of the day, you know, we mightier than them, you know, we be wiser than them, right? So that's why, you know, we were sold, right, into all of these slave trades and stuff by them. So people were thinking that Africans selling Africans, but it was not that, right? And a quick precept also I wanted to bring to support that was Exodus 1 and verse 12. So it says, but the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. Right? So even we, the so-called Negroes, we more than these Africans, right? We more mightier, we more stronger and all of these things, right? When you really check it out, the type of things that these Africans believe in, you would see that, you know, I think one of the gods is that it is scrawny. That's why I see all of them, you know, scrawny and all of these things, right? It's not because they know they're suffering from food and stuff, right? It's because they're doing all of these rituals to, you know, please their God, right? But we, you know, doing whatever we could do to please our God, and they are afraid of these things, right? So,
Psalms 105 and 10.
Psalms 105.
103, 105 and verse 23.
Right, so these Psalms 105 and verse 23. So it says, Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. Right? So it says, and he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. He turned their heart to hate his people, to deal subtlety with his servants. Right? So just like the other nations, right? The Africans did what they could do to try to keep all people down and to try to keep all people low. Right? Even if you look in these countries on the western side and all these things, right? If you go into them now, you would see it have a distinction between tribes, you know, who not mingling with who not mingling with who, because why? Every sheep know their fold, right? So we people have to understand that we are these Africans, and these Africans are the ones who also affected us with our enemies, right? It's not no if, but maybe, right? Because if you check out my brothers in the States, right? First their heritage was mulattoes, then colored, then Afro-American, and then recently this term called African-American, right? Our heritage was just put onto them because why? We have no true heritage, right? Our heritage is in the Bible, right? And we have to come back to this, right?
Right, so you get Genesis 9 and 20. Right, so a lot of our people like to claim there's harm, right? But when you look into the Bible, these are cursed nation of people, right? Are very nasty people, right? That bring about a lot of incest and all this sort of nonsense that Israel don't know about, right?
So these Genesis 9 and verse 20. So it says, 22, it says, and Ham, so it says, and Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent.
Right, so Noah had some union, which is known as wine, right? So he had a few drinks, but he had, you know, like a few men, right? And what he did, he was uncovered in his tent, right? So we know that any civilized thinking person know that somebody uncovered, you know, you try to cover them without seeing anything, you know, to try and, you know this person is in the right frame of mind at the moment, right? So you either close the door or you cover the person and you done away with that. But let me see what Ham did. Continue.
It says, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon.
And who?
And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backwards and covered the nakedness of their father.
Right, so Shem and Japheth covered the nakedness of the father, but Ham was looking at it. Right, this is not a tradition of an Israelite. We don't like looking at, you know, naked people or, you know, going to a nude beach or all them kind of foolishness. Right? Continue reading. Right? So we go understand, you'll see here that Israel being cursed is for breaking the law, statute, and commandments of the Most High. But you'll see that African people are naturally cursed people, right?
It says, right, and Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon their shoulders, and went backwards and covered the nakedness of their fathers, and their faces were backwards, and they saw not their father's nakedness.
Right, so the reason that they put the garment on the shoulder and walk backwards, you know, they would walk backwards until they see the foot, and then know it's to drop it down on the father, right? Knowing that if they walk the next direction, they will be looking at the father's nakedness, right? But we see here that Africans and them, which is Ham, did it willingly and then run and doing and telling the brothers that come and see look father naked. You know, like there is something good to be looking at, right? Continue.
Next verse it says, Verse 24, and Noah woke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan,
Curse be Shem.
cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren.
Right, so that is why you see the Africans and them.
You have a time for the word? That's how many for the word?
That's why we see the Africans and them curse even until today. Right? And that curse will never be lifted from them. Right? That is why you see in Africa, everybody wants to take what they have. Right? Everybody don't like the so-called Africans, and you see the Africans doing anything to please any and every nation of people. Right? All these is curses were the Mosai placed on Africa.
How many for the word? Just discussing. We say, you know, well, we can know when it could come true, it could come.
Right, as we are saying, this is why the Africans and them have a forever curse on them, right? Because these people deal in a lot of pedophilia, a lot of incest and all these kind of nastiness that a Israelite will not take part of. Right? You'll see them with cow peeing on the head, all manner of douchishness. They have houses made out of cow dung. Right? And next tradition that they have is if a male guest come to the home, the male guest can sleep with the wife. Right? Which is forbidden in the word of God. Right? So, yeah. Right? Majority of the women you'll see that have no nothing covering the chest area. Right? This is not the tradition of the men of the Mosai, people of the Mosai. Right? But a heathen nation. So we cannot say these Africans and we don't carry the traditions of these other nations. Right? We don't feel to eat raw meat. We don't feel to cut yourself every time you might kill an animal or something like that. Right? When you look at these other nations and them, especially the nation of Ham, you always see them putting a disc in the lip or some cut on the skin. Right? Mosai tell we not to mark the skin or not to put any cutting in the flesh. Right? So we are not the children of Ham, but we are the children of Shem.
Just a quick point. If you check it out, right? That whole thing about you know, the woman walking naked and start nakedness in these Hamite countries, right? The punishment for laughing at Noah's nakedness. Now we check it out, right? Your father laugh at man nakedness, and guess what? Your children now had to go through and the whole world seen their nakedness and know how it is, right? And that just goes back to the Mosai visiting the sins of the fathers in the fourth and third generation, right? That's one last piece of here, right? So this is the book of Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 3, right? The classic, right? So this is Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 3. So it says, the ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib, but Israel does not know, my people does not consider. Right? So when you really check it out, right? You know, a lot of people don't even care to know about their heritage. You know, a lot of people don't even know to care about, you know, who he is. You know? So guess what? They're just considering you know, the fact that, you know, we're here on this earth and we live in and all of these things, right? So it says, the ox knoweth his owner and the ass his master's crib, right? So the ox know basically, you know, where he come from, no matter how far it is, right? And it says, right, but my people Israel does not know, my people does not consider. So it says that, you know, we don't even care. We don't even care to say, you know, yeah, where we come from, where we roots from. You know, so we have to come out of the mentality that, you know, heritage is part of these Africans, right? We have to come out of the mentality of that, right? So one last piece up here, and I'll just tell it to the brother, right? So this is Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 1. So it says, let's start at verse 2. It says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over the oppressors. Right? And yes, this means the Africans too, right? Because the Africans oppressed us, right? So we have to understand that Israel is not Africans, we is Israelites. We don't put a difference between us and the so-called African man, right? So if you call yourself an African man today, that shows that you don't even know your heritage.
It's a form of ignorance as well, right?
Yeah.
Because the truth coming out, and most people naturally just ignorant to the fact that we are not the Africans, right? So this is the book of Exodus 3 and verse 9. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come upon me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them, right? So the Egyptians oppressed the nation of Israel, the Israelites, right? That clearly goes to show that two of them is not the same nation of people, right? Even in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, you tell us we are not the same, right? Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Right? So Israelites was amongst the Egyptians and them in slavery. Right? Meaning that the nation of Israel was under the Egyptians, the hands of the Egyptians, right? Being enslaved. You don't enslave your own people, you always enslave a nation opposite, or a nation that is not your own. Right? So that alone goes to show that we are not Egyptians, we are not Hamites, we are not Africans, whatever you would like to call them. Right? We and them are two different nations of people. Right? And as such, we can't call ourselves something that we are not. Right, Israel? So once again, we are not the children of Africa, or where people like to call themselves Ethiopians and and Selassie and all them kind of nonsense they identify themselves with. Right? We are Israelites. Israelites don't identify with no other race or nation of people beside our Israelites. Right? So with that, Israel, say shalom. Right? Keep enduring, keep studying the word of God, because this is the only way that we could make it out. So shalom, Israel.